Thank you, Chris. I'm going to be talking about Iran 10 years after, and Iran's interaction and influence on what we call today the Arab Spring, what's going on in relation to Iran. And Iran sees the developments in the Middle East going back, at least the Islamic leadership of Iran, going back to 1979, a revolution which toppled the pro-Muslim government, and for the first time in modern period allowed an Islamist movement, a movement that advocated ruling a society, organizing society based on Islamic law and Islamic tradition as it understood it. That this event, 1979 revolution in Iran, in fact started a process that is now blossoming into the Arab Spring. That's if you want to hear what Tehran is saying, that's what Tehran is saying. This is proving us right. We did it correctly. In fact, if you look at the last 10 years, what has happened in the region has tremendously favored Iran. That is to say, the US policy in the region, in a way, has tremendously, or at least outwardly, empowered Iran. Two of its biggest enemies, the Taliban to its east and Saddam Hussein's secular quasi-fascist regime in Iran, were knocked off and destroyed by the United States. These are the two biggest competitions Iran had, both of which it didn't have to lift a finger to bring down. Iran's influence in Iraq today and in Afghanistan is undeniable. Some say that Iran is the most powerful voice in Iraq and a very powerful voice in the events and developments in Afghanistan, to the point that it is hard to think how the United States can disengage from either of these two countries without coming to some sort of agreement and arrangement with the Islamic Republic of Iran. However, if we look at the situation a little bit below the surface, we see the situation is not as secure and advantageous to the Islamic Republic as they would like us to believe it. First of all, what is happening in the Arab world, starting with Tunisia, ongoing today in Libya and in Syria, actually was triggered with events in Iran in the summer of 2009. The election that year, the Green Movement, which was successfully put down by the regime with the use of considerable repression and brutality, around 100 people getting killed and all that. So, what is the event in Iran in 2009 and the event in Arab countries? What are they telling us? Are these events actually supporting the view that the Islamic Revolution was right and people are rebelling against imperialism under the banner of Islam to create a new Islamic order in the Middle East? Or is a new generation of Middle Eastern young people, the middle class, rebelling to create a future for themselves which involves more participation by the population and less autocratic regime? These two can't go together. They're separate from each other. And you can see this in the attitude of the Islamic Republic. It seems that the Islamic Republic also is realizing there's something going on here other than it's self-serving and self-congratulating, tapping itself in the back that this is our doing. Iran is very happy about what happened in Tunisia and in Egypt. They couldn't care less from Hosni Mubarak. They didn't have to do They saw Hosni Mubarak as a lackey of imperialism. Similarly, Iran was very much supportive of what happened in Bahrain and Yemen, the two cases that did not go far enough or didn't go far. We have to wait and see where they are going. They are enthusiastic about the toppling of Gaddafi. Everybody is happy about Gaddafi going. It seems that he was left with no friends around the world. Maybe a couple of people in Niger and South Africa, but not more. So everybody is happy about him going. The problem and the test comes in Syria. Iran and Syria, although Syria is ruled by a Ba'ath regime, which is a secular quasi-fascist nationalistic regime, the Ba'ath party of Syria was very friendly to Iran. Throughout Iran-Iraq war, they were very friendly, and in post-Iran-Iraq war, they were very friendly. Actually, Iran's closest friend in the Arab League and among the Arab countries is the Republic of Syria, the Arab Republic of Syria, rather than any other countries in the 22-member Arab League. And Syria is being shaken like never before. It seems that Syria, if the regime in Syria goes down or goes through significant alteration, Iran's network and context in the Middle East will be shaken with it. First of all, Iran's relationship and contact with Hezbollah in Lebanon will be very, very difficult to maintain. Would Hezbollah's weakening as a result of severing of contacts and downfall of the Syrian Republic, would Hezbollah be more accommodating in the interpolitics of Lebanon? Professor Borg perhaps can address that. A more cooperative Hezbollah rather than a more combative Hezbollah. Cooperative because the lifeline is cut. That would completely change the scenario, it seems to me, in the Middle East. Iran is also weak in another sense. Internally, the Islamic Republic, after 32 years, has been unable to create a stable economic system or a stable class of managers to run the country and replace the previous regime's administrators and managers. This has resulted into extreme economic difficulties for Iran, despite millions of dollars of oil money being pumped into the economy. A good example of this economic problems is the situation with subsidies, which Iran tried to stop and has resulted into high inflation and even more economic difficulties for ordinary Iranians on an everyday basis. Another aspect of the mismanagement is its relationship with the West. Iran is the single country, perhaps, well, not the single country, among the very few countries in the world which has no strategic friends. The only countries that I can compare with Iran in terms of lacking strategic friends are, let's say, Burma, Myanmar, North Korea, and few countries perhaps in Africa, Zimbabwe, one of them. This results, of course, this causes Iran being on a tremendous pressure economically, internationally, diplomatically, and under these various types of embargoes that it has been put under, which makes its internal situation fragile. So the confidence of Iran that the Iranian leadership, the Islamic Republic of Iran's leadership, that its own opposition has been safely and effectively crushed, and that the Arab Spring would result into only pro-American regimes being toppled, the disliked regime to be toppled, maybe a little bit optimistic on their part. It seems that this is a movement that is widespread in the region. I would even connect it in a way to the protests in Israel for challenging the social and political order over there, although not in the same context, but in the context of the Israeli political system. Perhaps our colleague, Dr. Kaplan, can address that and will address that. And I'm going to leave it there. I think my 10 minutes is...
Yes, we're saving a minute for you. Thank you.